What's up, everyone? Mark Lobliner, CEO, MTS Nutrition. So I'm actually sitting here, I'm having a snack. A scoop of red velvet MTS whey, a frozen banana, a half an outright bar crumbled on top with some whipped cream. Delicious. Anyway, there's been a huge debate over transgender females, males transitioning to female, competing versus females. And we've actually recently seen in Connecticut, the top 2 state track runners, female, were actually transitioning transgender males. And I'm gonna be real, these dudes look nothing like girls. I'm just being real, like, other than the long hair, it looked like a dude with dreads. Just, you know what I mean? Like, it looked like a dude with, like, braids. It is what it is. It didn't look like the transition had taken place. And then you had this college, I think, Division II athlete who failed as a men's track runner their freshman through junior year, compete as a senior versus females, and break pretty much every record and win and wipe the floor with these girls. And there's actually been a video that went viral of one of the girls who actually pretty much lost her chance to compete at a high level because those 2 girls, transgender females, competing as females, actually knocked her down, where after the top 6, allegedly, the colleges don't look at it. I don't know how that works, but that's why this video is such a hot topic and why I felt I addressed it. Also, it hits me personally because my daughter is right now being, with her placement in an Olympic development program and everything, an Olympic hopeful. And she's chasing that Division I soccer scholarship. And so it hits me close to home because my fear, not really fear, I think my daughter can fend for herself. I'm all about adversity. My concern is that these males transitioning to females, transgender females, I think that's the proper term. My fear is that they will be taking scholarships and other things from women. That's fine. I'm not complaining. We can afford college. We've saved up. We've done pretty well for ourselves. That's not my concern. My concern is injury and fairness of sport. Now, I know you guys might say, what about drugs in sport? That's not the issue. Because drugs in sport are something you're still dealing with the same biology, the same physiology, the same kinesiology as a whole. Obviously, there's genetic outliers. For example, the myostatin gene. You know, some people argue that Flex Wheeler, a bodybuilder, you know, his body has different myostatin levels, which means that he was able to put on muscle easier. It's been shown longer tibias, fibulas, etc., etc. There's one thing I think should be the mic drop of female sports and why transgender should not compete, at least in contact sports. Let me give you some context here. For example, in the MMA, there was a transgender female competing against females. She was literally breaking these girls' faces, beating the shit out of them. Joe Rogan actually did a couple pieces on it. That's number 1. Number 2 is this large transgender female competing in Australian rules football, knocking the heads off these girls, like a foot taller than these girls, bigger, broader shoulders. Men have bigger, better bone density, better reaction time. Men just overall, as a whole, obviously there's some women who are better than some men, but if you take at the elite level, reaction time's better, bone density, muscle mass, all that stuff. And it's not just from testosterone, guys. Let me tell you what should be the mic drop, and that is something called the Q angle. Now, for example, the female hormones when you're born and female anatomy basically results in a wider pelvis. So your pelvis for a male is going to be like this. For a female, it's like this. It's the Q angle. For example, 17 degrees is the average for women compared to 14 degrees for men. Now, you might think that's only 3 degrees, but that's only 17 points. So 3 degrees when you're dealing with under 20 points is a huge variable. So what happens is this puts the knee at an angle like this. What do we always talk about when I talk about knee health, injury prevention, you know, lifting weights for kids and all that? We talk about preventing valgus. Valgus is essentially the knee caving in. So if I'm to stand up, valgus would be, boom, pushing in. And that's one thing we try to do with our lifts. If you go to a lifter and you have them do a deadlift, their knees cave in, that's valgus. That's not a good thing. One way to avoid that is to enhance your glute recruitment. So, excuse me. Excuse me. Oh, I shouldn't eat while talking. Try to multitask. So what happens is females have this increased angle on their knee, which increases the lateral stress on the patella. So what that does, it forces women to recruit their glute muscles more. Now, if women can't not recruit, even if they do recruit those glute muscles, you still have that angular disadvantage, which means that they will always be prone to more injury, which is why ACL injuries in females is very high, disproportionately higher than males in the same sports because of that disadvantageous Q angle. It also leads to increased foot pronation, which is another stressor on the knee. So my fear is if this goes any further, besides the fact that men have a lot of other markers that they measure better in overall, such as bone density, muscle mass. Oh, well, what if you gave them female hormones? That's not gonna make your hips get less wide or more narrow, right? Like I got blasted on Twitter. Like I got blasted by the transgender community. And my opinion is pretty simple. And it's one of those where I don't care if people disagree because we're supposed to disagree. That's the beauty of living in America. It's a free country. Hey, if I'm overruled, if more people believe that I'm wrong than right, we have this government that's by the people, of the people, by the people. And the thing is, you're never gonna be 100% on everything. And that's why we have dissent. That's why we have debate. That's why we have the First Amendment, freedom of speech. And I want people to disagree with me because if nobody disagrees with me, I don't want to be a dictator. I don't want my opinion's not always right. I've changed my mind on a lot of things. This one, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to change it on. Okay, at the end of the day, my fear is that you start putting men, transgender women, biological males on the field, on the soccer field, on the rugby field, on the baseball field, on whatever field you want, lingerie, rules, football, I don't give a shit. You're gonna have an increased risk of injury because the velocity men go at is higher. The weight, they're stronger. If you ever go and watch a U15 girls soccer game and a U15 boys soccer game, watch how far that ball goes. Watch how fast they run. Watch how quickly the game moves. Hell, we saw a doubleheader, Fire and the Red Stars, back to back. Watching the female game after the male game was like watching the game in slow motion. And that's no knock at soccer. Look, our U.S. women's national team, I love every single one of them. I am a huge fan. I don't even give a shit about the men's national team. I am the biggest USWNT fan ever. But let's be real here. Watching girls after watching dudes, the worst men's team in the Premier League will stomp any national women's team. Speaking of national women's team, you want to see some transgender differences? Our U.S. national women's team a couple years back had a friendly or a scrimmage, as it's called, against FC Dallas, U15 boys. That's right, they played 14-year-old boys from Dallas, an elite club, not the best in the country, a top 20 club, but not the best. The U.S. women's national team lost 2-5 to 14-year-old boys from just one. It wasn't the All-America boys, U15, from the USA. No. This was the best the U.S. had to offer, adult, full-grown-ass women versus boys who just sprouted their first pubic hair and are like 14 years old. Put that in perspective. So you expect, I don't care if it's a mediocre male. You start putting mediocre males on the field with females, you're going to see not only a lot of dreams and hearts broken, and I know they're going to be like, well, since Olympics have allowed it since such and such and such, and, you know, there's no gold medals. I'm like, well, it's just now started to get out there. Like, there haven't been, other than you can argue the 84, I believe it was, Chinese women's volleyball team. They were bigger than any of our men. And by the way, I believe they won. You know, at the end of the day, hormones aren't everything. Hormones are not the entire gamut. You can't just take me, and I know a lot of people on Twitter were like, well, I'd like to see you go on estrogen and compete against the best women. It's like, First of all, I love my titties, but I don't want them getting any bigger, and I don't want them to be that kind of titty. Second of all, that's a straw man. That's a stupid fucking argument. At the end of the day, man, statistics are, it is what it is. We had basically the Connecticut girls tearing shit up. We had that university track star, mediocre male, go kill every girl in college. And women can't speak up because they're called bigots or sexist or transphobes or whatever. It's just bullshit. I actually had a DM today on Instagram. I did a story on this, and it was from a lesbian female. She said, I'm a lesbian. I completely agree with you. Like, I think this is the biggest knock to women's rights in the history of women's rights. I think this is going to set women's rights back decades. Decades. Now, shit. Caitlyn Jenner won Woman of the Year. A man won Woman of the Year. Sorry, that's a fucking decathlete. That's a dude. When he was a dude. Now he identifies. I don't care if you identify as a pygmy goat. I will respect that. At the end of the day, I'm old school. If I meet you for the first time, I'm going to tell you ma'am or sir based on how you look. It is what it is. It's called being a gentleman. It's called, I'm sorry, that's sexist too. It's called having manners. I teach my kids to do the same. You say, excuse me, sir. Excuse me, Mark. Excuse me, Z. Whatever the fuck you want to call me. And you go, I identify as a female. I'm like, my bad, my bad. What would you like me to call you? And I'll do it. I respect that. But the minute you step on the field in a competitive sport where you're vying for scholarships and accolades and medals and you've worked your whole life to that, this is absolute bullshit. Absolute bullshit. And yes, I'm passionate about it. Why? My mother was a bra burner in the 60s. I am all about women's rights. I think women fought hard for those rights, and I don't want to see dudes, I don't give a shit if you identify as a girl, I don't want to see biological dudes take away those rights. Title IX, where the fuck's Title IX? Okay, secondly, I have a daughter who is busting her ass every day, hours a day, for that D1 scholarship, to play D1. I don't want her to lose her chance to a guy who identifies as a girl. Even though, okay, fine, you're a girl. I'm not arguing that. I know it's mental. We can debate this all day. At the end of the day, if you ever had a penis, you're a dude. Unless you strap one on. You're a dude, like at least in sports. If you identify as a girl and you still have a penis, I'm good with that. If you identify as a UFO, a tree, a friggin' porcupine, I'm good. Yes, porcupine person. I'm good with that. Doesn't bother me. Stay the fuck out of women's sports. That's all I ask. And what's the solution to this? If there's enough of them, I say we give out transgender leagues. Yeah, it'll be hard. Like, think about it. Travel soccer, just to play in the division we're in, which is a higher one. Sometimes we got to travel 3-4 hours for one fucking game. Can you imagine trying to find another transgender team to play against? There's not that many. So what do? My solution until we figure out how to start a transgender competitive league is to keep biological males with biological males and biological females with biological females. As for what restroom to use, that's not something I really give a shit about. However, when there's a sign that says men's on the restroom, I tend to go there because I don't want to get another restraining order. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts. Comment down below, and I know this is going to trigger a lot of people, but triggering is good because that's what creates discussion. That's what creates change. Maybe you could change my mind. On this, I don't think it's possible, but give it a try. If you're against me, be polite. Polite discourse is good. Let's talk. It's a free country. Unless you're from a different country, then hey, sorry you're not American. Let's talk. What do you think? Mark Lobliner, that's not a game.